Hey everybody, what's going on? Deck TCG here today, bringing you my top 8 Beelstarmon Pomona regional deck profile and a bit of discussion on both kind of the games that I played into as well as things I would change. Really more of a deck discussion as well as a deck profile. No, it's legit because I've got all my top 8 prizing up here. Um, Just do some quick shout outs. Shout out to my family because they've always been super supportive. Shout out to the boys for helping me playtest and putting up with getting field starts so that I could go on to get this top 8. Super grateful to all of them. Shout out to Game Grid Spanish Fork, best place in the universe to get your shiny cardboard. Not sponsored, I just earnestly believe that. Um, and lastly, I want to thank all my opponents again. All of you were super cool, and I had a really great time playing all day, even though this is a fairly mentally taxing deck. But you were all super cool. Thank you so much. Now, much further to do, we'll just go ahead and get into the deck profile part of it. Starting off with the egg, we play. I play 4 Pokemon. Not really much to say about that. It's just the best egg you could possibly be playing. You know, inheritance to just training whenever you tuck a Three Musketeers option once per turn is just completely unbelievable. Lets you save and cheat so much memory. Um, yeah, really nothing to say about that. I'm only on 2 Toy Agumon. Um, Most of that was really just needing to make space for a lot of the other cards that I did want to play. Some people thought other cards were their 51st, 52nd cards. I decided that the third Toy Agu, I wouldn't ever go to fourth, but my third Toy Agu was a 51st card in what was otherwise a really nice list. Um, on For Sparrowmon, just a completely unbelievable card. Lets you tuck, which triggers your egg, draws you a card, evos you. Um, Quite really the best 3 you could possibly be putting in the back, I think. Second, of course, to the next 4 and the last of the 3s, Gazimon. The ability to search when moving to tuck an option to trigger your egg is super nice, especially if it's early and you can evo into a Black Gato for your second Asana, and because you did when moving, your new 4-cost Asana will still get to use at the start of main, which is really nice. Came up a lot. Um, Not sure if there's any other Three Musketeers level 3s I play. I did try the Black Toy Agu for a while, but I found that every time I used it, I would have rather just been playing the red one. I think that if you're going for a more TS heavy deck, like I was trying to when I was playing the Black Toy Agu, that you could make the argument for it. But in every instance that I played the black one, I just wanted the red one, so we ended up playing the red one. Moving on to level 4s, you have your Tamer Cheater, Black Gatomon. Um, the ability to warp so long as you have the Three Musketeers and Text Tamer is super relevant. It's so good. The ability, especially to play your Beelstar Fly Bullet and then Artivo Warp on top of the Black Gato for free, comes up a lot as well. Super good. Um, no notes. The inherited effect to tuck an option to draw one, also super relevant. We are to round out the 4s. We're on 4 Scopemon. Um, in any instance where like your Gazimon misses or you had to go into Toyago in the back, Scopemon to tuck an option to evo up into Lady Devimon for 1, effectively free even because Scopemon refunds a memory on Evo by tucking that card. Just completely unbelievable. Um, Scopemon and Sparrowmon were probably the 2 cards that I was trying to see the most whenever I was digging. I wanted to see them more than any other card. Um, for a while, I was trying to play Cyclone as a different level 4. I'll get kind of into why I wasn't playing it for 4s, just the Black God or just the Scopemon. For level 5s, I'm on 4 Lady Devimon because it's just the best level 5 you could possibly be playing. Like, talking to draw, and then when Evo, on Evo or when attacking, you can just trash one to use any 3 musket from your trash at cost -3. It's a huge, huge memory cheat, and it just allows you to do some really crazy things with the Beelstar Fly Bullet. Super, super good. Would not go to fewer than 4 for any reason. I know some people were trying to get away with 3. Specifically, I think they were trying to get away with 3 mostly to make room for Satellamon. I'm only on one Satellamon. I'm only on one Satellamon because I was just making a meta call. I wanted at least one for like TS slot matchups where they were trying to slam Neptune on me over and over. I did get de-digivolved a lot, and Telewiv helped with that, but um, I think in the future I would go up to 2 Satella. I don't think I'd go to 3 Satella. Satella is really relevant, I think, more relevant than I was giving it credit for, but not playing more than one didn't lose me any games. Then the tech that got me kind of infamous at the event, I'm on 2 Chimeramon. Um, Around the mid to late game, your deck just becomes really adept at spitting out random level 4 bodies, but doesn't become really adept at doing that on your opponent's turn. So, but playing Chimeramon on your turn, you can bot deck your 3-cost Asuna, or if you happen to die in security, you get to play out. If you have like Devon Inheritance, you get to play out a level 4 lower with 3 muskets and text, which is all your level 4s. And then you can just go into Chimeramon. Chimeramon can even recycle a Lady Devimon to get its inheritance effect. If you have Black Auto underneath it, you can tuck the Bind Red trigger to make it 4 colors. Because Chimeramon does not specify all the colors of Digimon sources, it is just your turn, it gains the color of all of its sources. So Bind Red pushes it to that 4th color because Chimera sees itself as white as well. Chimeramon came up as much as it was supposed to. I'll get kind of into why I'm on Chimeramon. I think there's a lot of speculation about it. Um, some people are on the reasons why it's good, but not why I'm playing it necessarily. Um, I did see a lot of other cool techs that were kind of serving the purpose that Chimera was serving in my deck, but get into that in a bit. That rounds out all the 5s. Moving on to 6s. Play, of course, the 4 of the dual card, Beelstarmon Fly Bullet. Completely unbelievable card. Just lets you use any of your options for free. It can wipe forward, it can burn security, it can unsuspend. It does quite literally everything you could ever want it to do and more. It's pretty self-explanatory. Anyone who's played into Beelstar knows how good this card is. Um, Moving on to the next level 6 I was on, Callismon. Callismon's really good into the mirror. It forces your opponent to play in kind of a weird way. It didn't come up this event, even though I was kind of trying to force it to come up a couple times. But if you evolve Callismon using the 4-cost Asuna, because the 4-cost Asuna can force an Evo into any TS in text, or any TS trait as well, then it will see itself evolve by its own effect, and you get to trigger your all turns, which would be super strong. It didn't end up coming up. Talisman, I think, was actually the card that came up the least. I wasn't unhappy to have it, but I only ended up playing it in a couple of matches, and it wasn't really game determinative in any of them, unfortunately. That may just have to do with the decks that I saw, but Um, it's a good card. It just didn't come up this time, I think, would be the way I had to put it. Then rounding out the list, we were on one Beelstar X Antibody. Um, this card is what pushes Beelstar from good to great, would be the way I would put it. Um, I was trying to cope for a long time in my early testing on not playing any of them because I couldn't justify the price tag. And even now, I still can't justify the price tag. I'm just going kind of hoping to open it when the extra boosters that I ordered come out. Because I was also aiming for the Gable Schwarmer in there, but the Beelstar X was a huge, huge reprint for that. Um, Fortunately, my one of my buddies happened to have one and decided that he wasn't going to play Beelstar for this event, so he gave it to me to use at the last minute, which was huge shout out to him. That was super super nice of him. Um, I will say that I'll put it like this: I still don't think Beelstarmon X antibody is strictly necessary. It accelerates your game plan by one, maybe 2 turns in the best of all possible worlds. It does obviously give you OTK lines that you otherwise don't have, but into decks that are not in any matchup except the mirror, effectively, I don't think Beelstarmon X is strictly necessary. I think that the power of Beelstar Fly Bullet alone is can be enough to get you a lot of games even without the X antibody. But not having X antibody in a mirror where your opponent has the X antibody is strictly game losing. And for the 2 mirror matches that I ended up playing, um, Beelstarmon X antibody was the reason that I was able to keep up in those games and ultimately win them. I was kind of teasing it a bit earlier. I'll get into it now. But these 2 Chimeramons were the result of an unwillingness to pay into the Beelstar X antibody tax. I was playing a I was doing a lot of play testing trying to find any combination of cards that could replicate the power of BLX because I understood that making your deck faster was always going to be a good thing, but I was trying to find the cheapest way to do it. I ended up landing on just 2 Chimeramon because including cards like Cyclonemon necessitated checking the deck in such a way that it became so much less consistent that it just was not worthwhile. Um, but Chimeramon served a very specific niche where it was always going to be there, but it wasn't going to be necessarily intrusive like something like Cyclonemon felt when I was playtesting. So the reason Chimera is in here is to supplement the fact that I wasn't on the second X antibody or even the third X antibody. Um, I did get really lucky all day, I think, because I always had Beelstar X when I needed it, even only playing that one. I think a lot of that has to do with the efficiency of the Three Musketeers engine as a whole. But, I would recommend at least one, if for nothing more than the mirror. But I will still kind of stand by and cope and say that it's not strictly necessary to play BLX if you do just want to play Three Musketeers. Um, Price of this card is about to go down hugely after the reprint and the extra booster set with Gaywald Schwarmer. So I would say just hold off on that, and then once the price falls by a good margin, pick them up because after Gaywald Schwarmer, and especially if they announce a Magna Kid dual card in the last TS set that we're getting that's coming out in a month or so, this deck is going to be tier 0 unhit. I do think that there's a strong chance that Beelstar does get hit, especially if it has super strong showings post Gaywalt Schwarmer. I think right now the meta is actually very healthy, especially looking at the top cut, especially looking at all the decks I played. Beelstar was not super overwhelming. I don't know if that has to do with the price tag of BLX compared to other decks, or if it's just, Beelstar's a boogeyman, but it's not the only thing that you have to beat. The reason that we are on Chimera at all is because we couldn't get the second X antibody. I would even sooner drop both Chimeras to play another Satellamon and another Beelstar X. And I would be perfectly okay with that. I won't say that I was unhappy with my 5 lineup. There was one side event match where if I had had a 5th level 5, I could have won the game. Or sorry, not 5th, a 6th level 5, I could have won the game. But I had just gassed out at that point. I'd already spent all my late debuts, and I checked after the match, and all 4 of my awesomeness that would have also won me the game were clumped in the last 6 cards of my deck that I just couldn't get to. The Chimera is in here because the second BLX is not. Um, some people say that Beelstar has a fifth or a swing for game problem. I don't think that's true. I know a lot of people were playing some silly things like Chimera. Some people were on Kaiser Leo. If I couldn't get another BLX, but I would play Kaiser Leo going forward. I really liked Chimeramon, especially for its strength and being able to retuck cards like the Lady Debbie so that it had the on delete to play a level 4 or lower. But I do think that Kaiser Leo may have been better. It's just that hybrids weren't really on my radar because the only purple hybrid I ever played was the Belger Loop stuff, which I did actually strongly consider for a minute, but Evoing for 3 over a Tamer is not as good as Evoing for 1 over a Tamer, ultimately. So yeah, that's my piece on my 2 cents on Beelstar X and Chimeramon. That's why they're there. That rounds out the sixes as well. I'm only on 6 of them. I think that you probably go way up on sixes and way down on options post getting the second dual card. I'm only on 1 level 7. I'm on the Shine Gray Ruin mode. Ruin mode came up a lot. It's just a powerhouse. You could probably play it at 2, but before I played it at 2, I would probably, going forward, include Tidamon Scolbaluchimon instead. I don't know why I cut for it. I cut Tidamon Scolbaluchimon because in all my testing, I had like 3 games where having Tidamon Scolbaluchimon execute would have actually mattered. And even at the whole 9-round event, I only had 1 game and 1 match where Titus Scolbalucci would have won me the game. So I didn't ever miss Tidamon Scolbaluchimon. Again, I'm not sure I'd play it. I think that there's an argument too, especially now that we're getting the Titan Field Spell was just announced that grants all your Titan traits blocker. And Lady Devimon happens to be a Titan trait, which means that Beelstar no longer loses to exactly Digivolve 1 in Swing, because then Lady Debbie's a blocker, and of course your Gazimon and your Sparamon both get inherited Retail. So now decks have to find a way to Digivolve 2. Volcanismon obviously already can. This deck's going to evolve a lot going forward. I'm happy with where this is right now. A lot of people were very surprised. I was on 2 Dare Blitz. Between Dare Blitz and Satellamon, I valued Dare Blitz more. There wasn't ever really an instance where I thought 2 Satella was better than 2 Dare Blitz. The reason I was playing 2 Dare Blitz in the first place is because I made the meta call that while Digivolve wasn't the end-all be-all in BT25 format, it was going to be considerably more important going into EX12 format, for which this was, I believe, the first regional. So I made the call to play 2 Dare Blitz so that I could Digivolve while I was going up my line, as opposed to kind of toward the end of it with Satellamon. We'll see if Dare Blitz stays in and it post Gale Schwarmer World. The actual reason that Dare Blitz is at 2 as well is because the main effect to delete your opponent's Digimon with the lowest play cost is super relevant in the format where people are only really going up 1 or 2 lines. And for all other instances where they are trying to go wide, you have Hurricane Screwshot. So there was a lot of instances where I didn't even necessarily need Dare Blitz just for Digivolve. I needed it to delete a body that was being played out after Flybullet deleted it and it decoded or whatever, so that they couldn't get another on play. And that was hugely relevant a lot of the time. So I opted to play more Dare Blitz than Satellamon again. If I had to out of this deck, if I were to wish anything, it would be to have a second BLX and a second Satella instead of the Chimera Mons, and that would probably been among the only things I would have changed. We did include 2 Dare Blitz. We're obviously on 4 Bind Red trigger. Self-explanatory, trashes your opponent's security if trash from your sources leads to 7k or lower, especially if you're de-digivolving off of Dare Blitz's effect. Bind Red hits a lot of level 5 and lowers on the field right now, especially. I don't think there's really a relevant level 5 with 8k DP. Um, I think I only even played one matchup where a level 8 had 8,000 DP, and for that instance, I just used Dare Blitz to delete it instead of Bind Red's trash. We were really greedy. We did also play 4 Hurricane Screwshot. I wanted to play 10 options, which felt a little bad sometimes. I did end up mulliganing a lot, but the deck only really needs a couple pieces to super get going. And I always wanted my Tamers and my Sparrow and my Gauzy especially to be online. So I played kind of a greedy um, option ratio. I know some people are only on 3 Hurricane Screwshot, and I did some testing with 3 when I was still considering playing Tidamon Scobalugimon. I'd probably drop Hurricane for Tidus Scobalugi. After seeing one of these options once, you get a lot of recycling power, but I could still feel the difference between 4 and 3 Hurricane Screwshot. Even though it doesn't feel like a huge difference, sometimes you just don't see it in an instance where you would have seen it, and I couldn't really justify that because Hurricane to loop memory and be more memory efficient is just so important. And especially the main effectively at 3, 4, and 5 is hugely, hugely relevant, I think. Even if it's only hitting 1 in an instance where you don't have Dare Blitz instead. I just think Hurricane's really good. I think it deserves to be at 4. That rounds out the options. To no one's surprise, I'm on 4 of the 3 cost Asuna and 4 of the 4 cost Asuna. I did also consider playing Violet in Boots. For a while, I would have dropped probably a Dare Blitz for it. Again, I was just doing a lot of testing. I was trying to see what didn't feel good. If it was exactly BT25 format and not also EX12 format, Dare Blitz, at least one Dare Blitz would probably be dropped for a Violet in Boots because it is a setter and it can do that extra thing where it can trash a Three Musketeers option to draw a card. But that was kind of the drawback of it in testing was that it had to drop a Three Musketeers trait exactly, and it couldn't also drop one of your TSs, and it couldn't drop a Three Musketeers in text. So while having that being set to 3 memory, especially when you had 1, 2, 3, 4 Asunas out to go like 7 memory every turn was really good in theory. The practice just wasn't quite there for me to play it. But I always had an Asuna. Obviously, there was that side event game, like I said, where I just didn't see any of these 4 costs, and that cost me the game. But I'm not unhappy with this Tamer lineup. I think it's probably optimal. I think Violet might just not quite be enough. I think post Gaywall Stormer can be re-examined because you go that much further up on Three Musketeers trait options. Yeah, that's the deck profile. That's kind of the reasoning of why all the cards are in there. I did also want to talk about some of the cards I was not playing. I talked about Cyclomon, obviously, about how I was trying to use as just this rush guy who could get an extra chip damage in. It just didn't feel great in the deck. I really wanted it to feel great. I even was considering dropping Black Gado to 3 over it because Black Gado's effect to play Tamers only while you have 1 or fewer Tamers, which was kind of feeling bad in testing for a while because my hand would be getting gunked up with Tamers, especially when I was on the Violet in Boots as well, especially when I was also trying cards like the Analog Youth. It felt really bad. There is probably a build, not a build I played, that focuses much more heavily on TS, that does probably play the Black Toyaku, that does play like Hiroko, that does play Cyclone Mon, but I didn't like the way that list played, so I ended up on what I have now. Um, A lot of people were swearing by playing Dianamon. Don't get me wrong, I think Dianamon is a good card, but the matchup spread for Dianamon was not something I could justify the slot in my deck for. Because its biggest use case was stopping Volcanismon players, but throughout all of my testing, I think I dropped like one Volcanis game period, and it just wasn't something that was even on my radar, something that would do as well as a deadly event. Like huge shout outs to the Volcanis players that did well, because again, it wasn't a serious consideration for my deck. I made the greedy meta call to cut it. I didn't really go punished about it. And the reason I chose to cut it even was because I knew that with the way I wanted to play the deck, that if I really needed to, I could use Beelstarmon to out the body 2 or 3 times in a turn anyway. So even if they had the Divine Arms, I could just kill it and put them back on Gotta Have It. Um, it happened in the um, 8th round. I did lose to a Volcans player. I put them on Gotta Have It and they had it, which is just, card games. Um, but even in that instance, I don't believe Tidamon would have won me that match, or sorry, not Tidamon, but Dianamon would have won me that match. And for every other matchup, again, I just didn't think Dianamon was good enough, so it didn't end up making the list. There was some talk as well about like TB with Kaguyamon, how it counters that, but TB was not a deck I was considering running into frequently. Again, all my testing against all my TB opponents, I just never found it strictly necessary to be running Dianamon for that. I wasn't scared of it. Like, yes, deleting Kaguya feels bad, but if they actually go up a line into it, you can just de-digivolve, so that doesn't matter. If they hard slam it, well, they played it for 12. Fortitude is pain, but ultimately not something that I felt Dianamon was worth including over, was the biggest point. So I didn't run Diana for those reasons. A lot of people are on one image training. I think image training's fine. I think that if you want to make the deck space for it, I've been more offended by tech choices. I didn't have an image training, so like I could have gotten one, but I didn't want to. I didn't think it was worth including. I never missed it really, so it didn't make the cut. Um, a lot of people were, or a couple people were also on Louis Owada as one of those tech choices like Kaiser Leo that just accelerates your game plan by turn. It kind of serves the same theory spot as what I was doing with the Chimeramons, where it just accelerates your game plan by turn. I think that Louis was a fine card. Again, I was just trying to keep my tamer lineup very simple so that early, especially, my Black Ballot would always be online, so that I could always get the 4-cost Asanas out if I really need them. Um, I just found it clunky to be playing any tamers that weren't the Asanas because I didn't ever really want to be hard slamming them with what I was trying to go for. Um, it did happen a fair number of times that I would Asana to pass turn on a turn where I already had multiple Asanas, but even then I was trying to only do that for the 3 costs so I could draw 2 and put my opponent to a low amount of memory. There was one Beelstar player I ran into who was on Title Stream. I just didn't read Beelstar close enough, honestly. I did not realize I could play TS auctions for free. Title Stream did kind of ruin a couple of my one game where it came up. I only played into one Beelstar player who was on it. And for that, I do think it's a really good card. I think if you're not playing Dare Blitz, you should be playing Title Stream. Bouncing all of your opponents' lowest level Digimon is really good, especially if they only have one Digimon, just bounces their only Digimon. And then, of course, Beelstar is also a TS trait, so it will just link itself and it makes your Beelstar bigger, which is really relevant because, Beelstar's biggest weakness is that it's super small. it can clear boards a lot, but if you ever can't clear like a blocker Volcanus, um, then it starts feeling really bad. Um, I didn't miss Telstream. Telstream was on my radar because I didn't read my Beelstar close enough. I don't think that there's a game I played that Telstream would have won me the game, but it is a good tech choice. I just didn't run it because it was on my radar. I talked a little bit about Tidamon Scopaluchimon again. I think it's a good card, but it just didn't come up enough for me to make it worth including. I think that we're starting to see a lot of good Titan support in the last TS set, and I think that there would be an argument for a stronger Titan package that would play it, where it would come up more. But for this event, I just made the call that it wasn't worth my while to include. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my justification for why my deck is built the way it is. I was super happy with how it performed. I did a little bit high roll the matchups I played into, but I was only really hitting matchups that I considered myself prepared for. Um, TB was much more of a breakout deck than I thought it was going to be. I'd mostly written off the EX12 decks, but I did manage to dodge TB all day. A lot of people were asking like, "Oh, what are you gonna do into TB?" And my answer was just dodge it, and I did dodge it. So kind of been that out of a call. Um, there's that saying, "Being lucky is better than being good," and quite really, that's kind of what happened for a lot of my day. Was I got really lucky in all my matchups. Um, so round one, I played into SW. They had like the Satan Goku stuff and everything. I felt really prepared for that matchup again. I was really egoing my deck list, and really Beelstar was super built up in my mind as kind of this powerhouse that just stomps anything that's not itself. And that kind of showed in my matchup into SW. They played really well, and I did misplay game two, which actually lost me that game. I attempted to lead their Satan Goku, but I couldn't. But I didn't realize how much follow up deleting the Satan Goku gave them. So that pretty effectively lost me the game. Felt pretty bad, but I still ended up taking it game three. Game two, I had a lot of practice into Angels. I paired into Angels. I beat Angels. Like, there's not that much more to say about it. They didn't see their high roll before I saw mine, so it happens to the best of us. Round three, I did end up playing into Volcanus. I was actually pretty surprised that anyone was on Volcanus. I believe that Volcanus player does play Eagle's Nest. It was good to see you in person. I play on Eagle's Nest sometimes. They played really well. Um, Ultimately, though, I was prepared. I'd practiced the lines that delete Volcanus two or three times in a turn so that it can't protect itself. I did get lucky with a couple of my security checks. I only had to delete either of his Volcanuses twice, which helped a lot because he kept checking options that would have otherwise cleared it. Again, being lucky is better than being good. Don't know what to say. Round four was actually my least deserved win. It was the first time I hit the mirror that day. I was really hoping to dodge the mirror because I had to just expect that all my mirror opponents were going to necessarily have more VLXs than me, and thus their game plans were going to be more consistent and more aggressive. Game one, games one and two weren't really the focal point. The focal point was game three. We were kind of running into time. Um, and what ended up happening was they had three security, and I was on like two or so memory. I was really trying. I had a Chimera in hand, but I had a Chimeramon and a Sculptmon in hand, and a Sculptmon I just played out that turn on board. So I was trying to find a way to gain extra memory, but I just didn't quite have it. So kind of in time, I go into BLX, I burn their top two security, and I end up checking their Bind Red trigger as their last security, which deletes my BLX, which triggers my Lady Debbie to play out another level 4 body, which gives me the Chimera for game. Um, any other sequence of events would have resulted in me losing the game. Um, it was my least deserved win. I really recognize that. Like, I should never have won that game. but I got lucky. Round 5, played into a super nice Angels player. Shout out to that guy. Um, they did high roll me game 1, um, which was pretty rough. And going into game 2, it's like, oh yeah, I have a bunch of people at my locals that play Three Muskets, so especially playing into a Angels player is going to be that versed into Three Muskets, I got pretty nervous. I did end up clutching it out, and that felt pretty good. I have a couple of dedicated Angels players around me. All my practice into them really paid off. Round 6, I played into the mirror again. It would be the last time I played the mirror in the main event. I ended up winning. They just didn't see their lines as quickly as I saw mine, and that's really what it came down to. Round 7, I ended up losing to the Omni Ping Pong player who would go on to win the event. I mean, there's just nothing else to say about that. I got high rolled. Didn't see a line that was quick enough to beat um, 8 security stored in Memboost. So round 8, I was a little bit tilted. I wasn't quite in the right mental. I did end up losing to a Volcanus player. Um, just when game 3, you gotta have it, cleared your body, and they did have the last Volcanus, so lost me the game. Nothing else really to say about it. Pomona got have it, and they had it, and that's just card games. Um, Going into round 9, I was really nervous. I really wanted my invite, so it was really do or die. My app was being really weird. I was on table 16, so I was super nervous that I wasn't going to end up making it. As it would turn out, I was actually 13th going into the round, so any win result would guarantee my invite. Um, the same people who play Angels around me were also really big into puppets, and for the past 2, 3, 4 regionals, whenever I've run into puppets, I've just always known exactly how to play around it because of all the practice I previously had into it. It was actually almost a poetic end to my day, like show everything I've learned, kind of come full circle moment. Um, it'd be the coming full circle moment where knowing all these things from my past would benefit me in the future. That poor Angels player had actually been deck checked, and I guess they got their deck stacked and just wasn't playing right, and I felt pretty bad for him. Like they did kind of they did soft brick both games. Like they had plays, but I had better plays, and ultimately, puppets can't really beat Hurricane Screwshot, and that's just what it was. I was bored more than he was able to outmine, which ended up pushing me to 8th because I had the best tiebreakers. Because one of my only losses was to the winner of the event. I did bubble into top 8. I'm not gonna pretend like I didn't get really lucky with my matchup spread all day, but ultimately the call I made was that there was only really going to be 2 or 3 decks I had to worry about, being the tri-format decks from BT25, even though all the new EX12 stuff was coming in. But EX12 actually, rather surprisingly, um, has made the format super healthy and super diverse in a way where my kind of greedy meta call to play a deck that was more consistent and less focused on all these tech choices still let me dodge all the matchups that I wasn't prepared for. And I think that consistency is ultimately what pushed me to top 8 more than being teched for everything I could possibly run into. I don't know that I could get away with that again, but I got away with it this time, and it worked out, and that's really all there was to it. Um, Thank you so much for watching. You can ask me any questions in the comments about the decks or about XYZ. I'll do my best to answer them if you ask. Um, Again, super grateful to all my opponents, super grateful to everyone who helped get me here. I'm super excited to have gotten my invite. I'm even more excited to have gotten top 8. These are going to be my 8 sleeves, probably forever. Um, I'm just super excited. I'm super grateful. But that's the deck, that's the theory, and I will catch you next time.